Post-training notice. National First-Class Registered Exorcist. Chapter 57. Finish line. Xiang Cheng had also come out. Chen Zhen called out to him, but Xiang Cheng didn't reply, as if he hadn't heard. He went into the forest behind the house to pee. The sun went down, and everyone gathered around the campfire. Kita stretched lazily as he said, "This time tomorrow, we'll be able to have a good rest." Chen Zhen replied, "Before we leave the examination area, there should be one more ambush." "Are you feeling a little better?" Qi Wei asked. Xiang Cheng nodded silently. JIXIAN touched Xiang Cheng's forehead. He wasn't feverish anymore. The night wind was strong along the ridge of the mountain. Chen Lang, JIXIAN, and Lei Guangxi sat in the house, while the rest took turns keeping watch throughout the night. If they went down the mountain from here, it would take them more than 3 hours to reach the exit, so if they left at 5, they would be able to make it on time. JIXIAN told Chen Lang about what happened today, but just as he started, Chen Lang replied, "Gege already knows." JIXIAN was very surprised, and Chen Lang explained, "I saw them talking." Gege and Kitagur were both very surprised. No one thought that Mara would appear. "Could you read their lips?" JIXIAN asked. "A little," Chen Lang said. "I could only recognize Gege's." Gege was saying that everyone was being used by some Julie. "What Jew?" JIXIAN asked, confused. "What Jew, what Jew?" "Lin Jew." JIXIAN instantly understood. As it turned out, Chen Zhen, Kita and Zhou Wanyuan all knew nothing about what had happened today. Clearly, the old Buddha had hidden this from everyone, including Zhou Mokuo, to meticulously set up such a trap. As for whether the JIXIAN and Yan Fei were also included in this plan, that was something he had no way of finding out. "Have you heard of Mara?" Kikai mentioned Mara before, but there were some things even he didn't know. JIXIAN continued. "Mara is the resentment that has accumulated in the divine and earthly veins," Chen Lang explained. "Though it is called the heavenly devil, this heavenly does not refer to the sky, but rather the world. The divine and earthly veins serve the function of digesting all the suffering and hatred in this world, just like humans' ability to heal themselves. If the total amount of resentment in the world exceeds, I know that. If we assign K to represent the coefficient of purification by the divine and earthly veins, S as the area in which humans are active, and T as periods of time across which the resentment and suffering of humans are accumulated, we can come up with a formula," JIXIAN wrote on Chen Lang's hand. "Chen Lang, that's right. We can calculate the largest coefficient of purification that can be achieved by the divine and earthly veins in a set period of time. But because of all kinds of reasons, any amount that exceeds the limit will overflow and fill the world, slowly turning into devils. There's another method of calculation," Chen Lang continued. "It's a formula from the older editions of the textbooks. This formula has an added independent absorption parameter, which, under some specific circumstances, some specific kinds of resentment will be absorbed." JIXIAN, "What kinds of circumstances?" Chen Lang hesitated for a moment, before writing, "An individual who arose from something that never belonged to the cycle of birth of the divine and earthly veins." JIXIAN didn't follow. "Aren't all things born from the divine and earthly veins?" Chen Lang, "Not necessarily. There's a very small portion that isn't." JIXIAN, "Then where did they come from?" Chen Lang, "I don't know. Perhaps due to the influence of cosmic rays or other kinds of radiation, organisms on this earth will undergo some strange changes once in a while. These kinds of changes can't be counted in the overall energy of the divine and earthly veins either, which is where the principle of leaping out of the 3 realms, not contained within the 5 elements, comes from." "Oh," JIXIAN understood. Chen Lang, "Mara is one of those beings. I remember reading in a very ancient text that Mara accumulated day by day over a long period of time. After some Yao absorbed some strange cosmic rays, they turned into a different variation of Yao. These Yao were even more powerful than normal Yao, and if they created resentment, that would be absorbed by the nucleus of Mara after they died. But Mara had already been exorcised once a long time ago, and it doesn't actually pose a great danger to humanity. It's just that no one expected it would arrive now. JIXIAN understood, but there was nothing he could do about it. This was simply to satisfy his own curiosity. Chen Lang, I saw that they were talking about Xiang Cheng. What happened to Xiang Cheng? JIXIAN, Xiang Cheng's very normal. What were they talking about? Chen Lang, Gege was talking about something how, and they brought up Xiang Cheng several times. JIXIAN's heart thumped at that. Why? Jinghao and Xiang Cheng shouldn't have anything to do with each other. Oh, it was probably Qi Wei telling them that his group had run into Jinghao. In the depths of the night, a wild wind gusted through the valley. All of the trees swayed, as if the wind was about to uproot the trees. The wooden house kept shaking, and JIXIAN was a little afraid, only for Xiang Cheng's voice to sound outside. Don't open the door, I'm right here, Xiang Cheng said in reply. Xiang Cheng hugged his arms, sitting on the ground, his back to the wooden wall. He and JIXIAN sat, leaning against each other, separated by a wall. Are you cold? JIXIAN asked. If you're cold, then come in. No, Xiang Cheng held the demon-subduing staff, alertly listening to the sounds in the wind, as if there was something approaching them rapidly. Chen Zhen. Qi Wei asked from outside. What time is it? 3 o'clock, Chen Zhen replied. The last part might be coming. What could it be? Zhou Wanyuan stood up, facing the strong wind blowing in her face, which was so strong that she couldn't keep her eyes open. It's probably just some formality, Chen Zhen said. We're already here, they won't make things difficult for us. Along the mountain ridge, the peaks that were along the way seemed to be squashed under some huge hand, and they began to collapse. The three groups of people had never expected that the final test would be conducted in such a fashion, and they immediately grew dumbfounded. Zhou Wanyuan kept backing up towards the house, asking, what should we do? Where do we run? The collapse stopped. The wind changed directions, gusting wildly through the forest. The ball hovering above the map of the mountains and rivers began to glow with light. Dishuman said, actually, there's no need to add this part. Zhou Mokyo replied, it's just a formality. The other three groups are currently rushing here, so in total there are 6 groups of people. The special task force will be chosen from within this group, but there are only 5 spots, so we'll have to eliminate at least 7 people. Why? At the summit of the mountain, everyone let out loud shouts. The ridge of the mountain split apart from the middle. Kita and Zhou Wanyuan fell down as the peak collapsed, and the entire wooden house flipped over, the foundations falling along with the dirt. JIXIAN grabbed Chen Lang with his left hand and the collar of Lei Guangxi's shirt with his right as he kicked hard off the ground. Fang Yulan grabbed Lei Guangxi, and Chen Zhen leapt from the side, tightly hugging Chen Lang. This is called observing a formality. Are formalities like this? Kita roared, enraged. JIXIAN's feet slipped, and he toppled backward, only for a powerful body to catch him from behind, wrapping one arm around his waist and shouting, hold on tight. The umbrella opened, taking JIXIAN and Xiang Cheng flying towards the broken ridge. The earth shook around them as the entire mountain crumbled from south to north, rumbling as it came crashing down. The entire process happened in less than 3 seconds. Just as JIXIAN landed on the ground, Qi Wei grabbed his wrist, and the 3 of them began to dash madly towards the summit of the mountain range. Kita! JIXIAN shouted. Don't mind us. Kita shouted back. The entire world shook as the mountain peak collapsed like something out of an apocalyptic film. Qi Wei roared, don't mind it. Getting out alive is more important. In the blink of an eye, the wild beasts of the prehistoric forest charged out in great numbers. Chen Zhen held Chen Lang, hanging off the top of a large tree, while Kita, controlling the grey wolf, rushed over from a tree on the other side, catching the two of them. The white deer raced through the forest, flying towards the plummeting form of Fang Yishi. *****. The wooden house in the forest. Dishuman, then, I'll release it now. Release it, Jomokuo said. There was a knock from outside, and Grandmaster Chiao came in, saying, Wan Lei escaped. How are things progressing here? Where's the old Buddha? Jomokuo asked. Grandmaster Chiao replied, she's waiting by the exit. By daybreak, someone should arrive there. I was just about to release the Ao King, Dishuman said. Should I release it? You must, Grandmaster Chiao said. The exorcism committee needs new blood. It cannot depend forever on us. Dishuman pulled the glowing ball down to shine its light over the entire sand plate. She accepted a small bottle from Jomokuo and tilted it slightly, letting a single drop of purple-black blood fall onto the plate. In that instant, near the edge of the sand plate close to the exit, the grains of sand that made up the depths of the mountain ridge actually began to roil. Hang on, Chen Zhen shouted loudly. Kita grabbed Chen Zhen's collar, and Chen Zhen was holding Chen Lang. In the dark night, there was the sound of a beast's roar, and from the mountain slope some hundreds of meters long, a sleeping giant rolled over. A huge silhouette appeared, and it shook open its wings. Dirt and trees went flying in all directions, billowing in all directions. Xiang Cheng and Zhi Ziaduo were caught in this avalanche, already unable to distinguish up from down, when a dragon the color of fire came roaring as it rushed towards them. With a turn, several explosions rang out from around them. Everything was a mess. In the dark world, two huge lights began to shine in the sky, their light shining for hundreds of li. Zhi Ziaduo and Xiang Cheng grabbed onto each other's hands tightly, flying through the air like a kite with a broken string. With a huala, Xiang Cheng opened his umbrella again, taking Zhi Ziaduo with him as they flew towards the opening of the canyon. Woo, boom. That huge monster that was almost 100 meters long let out a loud explosive roar, and with a dang, pulverized everything in the air. After that, it opened its maw, filled with teeth, spewing out a torrent of muddy paste. Let's get past it by going from the side. Chi Wei roared. We won't make it. Kita roared. It's blocking that route. At the other end of the forest, a huge bell shining with a strong light slowly rose into the air, before there was another dang, which collided with the second roar that the monster let out. There's another group of people. Kita shouted. No. Two groups. Get closer to them. Don't move. Xiang Cheng shouted at Zhi Ziaduo. The avalanche swept back and forth, and everywhere it went, it turned the land into a vast sea of mud. Xiang Cheng and Zhi Ziaduo, holding the umbrella, flew by overhead, but in that instant, all of the trees flew into the sky. A man's voice shouted, Is that Chi Wei? Chi Wei. I'm here. Chi Wei shouted. I'll gather up green wood. You light the trees on fire, that man shouted. We have to figure out a way to hold it back. Understood. Chi Wei shouted. Everyone, get its attention. Chen Zhen called. This is the last one. In that instant, a bunch of magic spells shot forth, and the air filled with flying trees. Xiang Cheng, however, didn't attack. He and Zhi Ziaduo landed on a cliff, watching from a distance. What is this thing? Xiang Cheng was frowning deeply. I don't know, it seems to be some kind of AO. Zhi Ziaduo said. Such a huge monster must be very expensive to rent. Xiang Cheng. Can you see its essence? Xiang Cheng asked Zhi Ziaduo. We have to find its weak point. But as they spoke, they saw that Ao King's entire body turn into magma, blocking the way through the canyon. The swords that filled the air around Chen Zhen, the sound waves from the golden bell, the huge forms of the grey wolf and white deer, all rushed forth to engage it in battle, but none of them had an effect. "I see a point of light," JIXIAN said, covering his right eye and looking towards it with his left. "Where?" Xiang Cheng asked. "Is it red?" "Yes," JIXIAN said. "On its head?" "Right between its eyes." Xiang Cheng asked. Just as they were speaking, the Ao King shook open its body of scales and opened its eyes, rushing right towards them after taking that first volley. The magma spewed forth, and trees collapsed before it. "Above us," JIXIAN said. "What's that?" "It's glowing faintly with light." "That's its Niadan," Xiang Cheng said. "Come with me." As he spoke, Xiang Cheng tossed out the Yao binding rope in his hand, tying it to a tree. He then had JIXIAN hold the rope as he flew with him towards the summit at the other side of the canyon. The red rope shot back and forth in the dark night, coiling around the trees and shrubberies, forming a huge net. "Stand here, and when I say capture, tug the Yao binding rope," Xiang Cheng said to JIXIAN. "How about you?" JIXIAN asked. Xiang Cheng didn't reply. He held the demon-subduing staff in his left hand as he shook open the umbrella in his right, rising swiftly into the air, roaring, "Chi Wei!" Before he could even start falling, the grey wolf, white deer, and the fire dragon that Chi Wei was commanding all flew towards him, colliding with each other. The three of them reached out in a flurry, and finally, Kita managed to successfully catch Xiang Cheng. "Chen Zhen!" Xiang Cheng shouted, turning his head back. "Have them gather their fire power in one spot." Chen Zhen replied loudly, "They won't hear me. They've gone insane." Xiang Cheng shouted, "Figure it out yourself." Suddenly, an idea came to Chen Zhen, and he pulled out the heart lamp. The heart lamp focused its light, which shot out towards the Ao King's eyes. The Ao King immediately let out an angered roar, and bellowed towards the sky. But at that moment, all exorcists seemed to have come to a tacit understanding, and they all focused their fire on the Ao King at the same time. For a time, under that pitch-black sky, golden light shot forth at the same time in 100 different ways as everyone sent their spells at the Ao King in a wanton, wild attack that they poured all their strength into. But before the light of the spells reached the Ao King, a strange suction force seemed to come from the earth, and the spells were all sucked into the pitch-black forest and ground. "Capture!" Xiang Cheng's voice sounded through the sky. Everyone froze at once. "What?" Zhou Wanyuan screeched, unable to believe her own ears. "Great immortal Xiang, don't joke around. You can even capture this." JIXIAN stood in the center, and he pulled in the Yao binding rope. The rope on the ground that had gathered all that magic formed a huge Akalantha array. The 9 true words on the outer rim of the circle swiftly began to glow with a golden light, which then gathered in the center of the array. JIXIAN's entire body was enveloped in golden light, and that bright light was like a flow of energy that had been harnessed, shooting towards Xiang Cheng in the sky. Xiang Cheng was floating in midair, his left hand sketching out something in the air, and the 9 true words shot out, vibrating with energy. They slammed into the Ao King's forehead, circling speedily around it, sealing its escape route. Holding the sword of wisdom that had been formed from the demon-subduing staff in one hand, Xiang Cheng pointed it towards the sky. A huge, golden sword suddenly left his hand, shooting into the sky, carving out a path through the black clouds. Xiang Cheng landed on the ground, hugged JIXIAN, and put the demon-subduing staff away. All of them immediately scattered in all directions. Xiang Cheng hugged JIXIAN, leaping towards the crack in the rock. Less than a second later, high up in the sky, that huge, golden sword drew out an arc of lightning through the air, shooting towards the ground like a meteor. It embedded itself at the very top of the Ao King's head. Waves of impact spread out from that point, rippling across the ground. A golden wind of light began to blow, uprooting all of the trees, sending them flying outwards in all directions. "Pretty good," Dishuman said, observing the sand plate. We can give them a high score. The trees rolled and fell. The two of them were still hidden in the crack in the rock, and the world outside shook as the Ao King let out a thunderous roar, before turning into a beam of light, flying towards the distant wooden house in the forest. Jomokuo held the bottle, and that drop of blood flew towards them, landing back inside. In the canyon to the northeast, sunlight shone in. The canyon opened up into a wide space, and the exorcists, dragging their tired bodies along, all ran towards the exit. Xiang Cheng held Zhi Ziaduo's hand in his, and he and Qi Wei limped along at the very end. Lin Yuro was sitting under that end plaque, drinking tea. When everyone arrived at the finish line, they all declined to be the first one. Zhi Ziaduo saw the other three groups of people exchange a few greetings with Chen Zhen. Who exactly will be first? Lin Yura asked coldly. If you don't cross, then I'll start deducting points. Director Chen first bought. One of the exorcists in another group was covered in dust, but Zhi Ziaduo recognized that that was the exorcist who made all the trees rise into the air. He continued earnestly, Director Chen and Director Kita should go first. No, Chen Zhen said. You guys go first. Xiang Cheng rose impatiently and pushed the three of them away. He and Zhi Ziaduo passed through their midst, walking out of the exit. Say, do you think the three of them are insane? Xiang Cheng asked Zhi Ziaduo quietly. Zhi Ziaduo began to laugh loudly. Second scroll JIXIAN end. Post-training notice. National First Class Registered Exorcist. Volume 3. Nine-Tailed Celestial Fox. Chapter 58. Sunset. The bus was waiting outside the exit, and everyone climbed tiredly onto the bus. I'll take you guys to the inn next. The driver said, Congratulations, you guys are the first batch to arrive. Come, fill out the form, score the exorcists, and hostages, then come and get food. Who? Zhi Ziaduo leaned back in his seat, looked at Xiang Cheng, and smiled. Xiang Cheng glanced at Zhi Ziaduo but didn't speak. Everyone studiously filled out the form. Chen Zhen was talking with Lin Yura outside the bus, and a moment later, Jomokuo also came and got on the bus to collect the forms. Everyone has worked hard. Jomokuo said, Go back and have a good rest, there are still 2 days left. Stay in the inn for now and treat it as a holiday ba. Well done, Xiang Cheng. Jomokuo took the forms and left. The bus started up, leaving along the mountain road just outside the exit, heading towards the inn. Finally, the exam had ended. Zhi Ziaduo thought, this should have counted as a pass, right? If we still don't pass, that's really too unreasonable. Hey, Director Chen, this way, please. Come, Director Kita, Miss Jo. An exorcist to the side was full of smiles and offered his seat to several people. Zhi Ziaduo glanced at him, that man was in his 30s. He glanced at Zhi Ziaduo and nodded to him with a smile. Xianhezi, Kita said, you guys almost snatched first place from us, ha ha ha. An exaggeration, the man named Xianhezi wore a tank top, and had a necklace with an emerald pendant around his neck. He bent over to look for water and gave some to everyone. He said to Zhi Ziaduo, Come, are you a hostage? Give him a bottle. Zhi Ziaduo said gratefully, Thank you. Then he looked back and saw Zhou Wanyuan, Kita, and Qi Wei. Everyone was mouthing the same thing. They didn't say it out loud but they all looked awkward, and they had been mouthing, bootlicker, bootlicker, bootlicker. Zhi Ziaduo. Are you okay? Zhi Ziaduo elbowed Xiang Cheng. Xiang Cheng stretched out his hand, pulled him into his arms, and shook his head. The bus stopped outside the inn. Chen Zhen gave everyone their cell phones, and everyone reassigned the rooms, letting Zhi Ziaduo and Chen Lang switch rooms. Qi Wei said at the door of the neighboring room, let's all have dinner together in the evening. N. Xiang Cheng said absently, gesturing at Zhi Ziaduo to open the door. Zhi Ziaduo opened the door and asked, Xiang Cheng. Xiang Cheng stood in the corridor with their bags and looked at Chen Zhen at the end of the corridor. Zhi Ziaduo asked, do you have something on your mind? No. Xiang Cheng raised his eyebrows. Zhi Ziaduo opened the door, and the two of them made their way in. Chen Zhen had given them the very best room, one with a view of the verdant mountains outside. Before Zhi Ziaduo could even let out a wah, Xiang Cheng had closed the door, causally tossed his bag aside, and embraced Zhi Ziaduo, pushing him up against the wall to start kissing him. Woo! Zhi Ziaduo's hands followed up Xiang Cheng's clothes, and the two of them were practically trying to rip each other's clothes off. Xiang Cheng got rid of his tank top quickly, revealing his strong upper body. Hugging Zhi Ziaduo, he pushed him backwards, and as they walked, their clothes fell to the ground. They entered the bathroom, and he turned on the hot water tap. Too hot? Xiang Cheng asked. Perfect. In the steam, Zhi Ziaduo felt so comfortable that he was about to melt away. He felt Xiang Cheng's erection poking into him. Xiang Cheng opened up the shower curtain, felt around for his cell phone, pressed a few things, and started to play a song. Zhi Ziaduo blushed as he grasped Xiang Cheng's thing and leaned against his shoulder, hot water rushing down their bodies. He felt that there was a lot that he wanted to say to Xiang Cheng, but there were too many things to talk about and he didn't know where to start. Since the evening of the day before yesterday, when the two of them had met up again, Xiang Cheng seemed to constantly have something on his mind. Zhi Ziaduo lifted his head, looking at Xiang Cheng's resolute face. Xiang Cheng lowered his head, kissed Zhi Ziaduo's lips, then started to lather soap onto him, his palms going from his shoulders all the way down to his ankles. Ah, Zhi Ziaduo felt excited from the feeling of their skin touching, and he couldn't help but carry on. Xiang Cheng couldn't stop swallowing. He made him turn around and put one hand around his waist, while his other hand massaged up and down Zhi Ziaduo's chest and abdomen. Feels so good. Zhi Ziaduo said, that. Xiang Cheng. I used to be a duck. Xiang Cheng said. Zhi Ziaduo laughed and almost slipped. Xiang Cheng hurriedly hugged him tight and made him sit down. Do you want that? Zhi Ziaduo asked. What? I want that. Zhi Ziaduo said. What do you want? Xiang Cheng asked again. Zhi Ziaduo. There was a smile in Xiang Cheng's eyes, but he didn't answer Zhi Ziaduo, instead he got massaged seriously. Zhi Ziaduo's hands also began to grope around randomly. He dragged his hands down Xiang Cheng's pectoral muscles to his abs, and the two of them started to grind together, their bare bodies covered in slippery bath gel. They faced each other openly and hugged each other, and Xiang Cheng didn't seem to be able to kiss him enough. After washing up, Xiang Cheng had him sit down and soak in the hot water. Zhi Ziaduo played with Xiang Cheng's hot rod and straddled his waist. Sit on it yourself, but go slow. Xiang Cheng said. Zhi Ziaduo was a little nervous. It hurt a lot when it first went in, and he bit his lip tightly, while Xiang Cheng held his breath. After several attempts, Zhi Ziaduo managed to sit down successfully on it. Xiang Cheng didn't move and instead held his waist. The two of them were facing each other, and Zhi Ziaduo hugged Xiang Cheng's sexy bare neck, scratched his shoulders and back with his fingers, rubbing off a layer of sweat and dirt. Xiang Cheng's eyes were fixed on him, and the tenderness within made him fall completely into them. Don't move. Xiang Cheng was short of breath and said, I've held it in for too long, go slower. If you move, I'll come. Zhi Ziaduo started laughing and followed Xiang Cheng's rhythm. At first, they went very slowly, but when both of them got into the height of things, he completely handed himself over to Xiang Cheng. It felt like a vast flow of water accumulating non-stop, flooding his consciousness, gathering little by little into a cresting wave that drowned him in a single moment. Compared to the hurried and hectic coupling from that night, JIXIAN already fully adapted to it this time. He trembled in pleasure and loved Xiang Cheng from the bottom of his heart. That night gave him a feeling of excitement and joy. This time, it felt more natural and happy, and the pleasure came on too strongly. Xiang Cheng's thrusts came faster and faster, and it was as if the sky had fallen in, as if it had crossed the bounds of his body and directly stimulated his soul. Half an hour later, JIXIAN was on the verge of fainting. He didn't even know when he had come. Xiang Cheng pulled out, got him to stand up, and wiped him clean with a bath towel. The afternoon sun shone in from the floor-to-ceiling window. JIXIAN lay on the bed and panted, staring at the ceiling with the flush on his face hadn't faded yet. He heard Xiang Cheng washing clothes in the bathroom, and the sound of music came out. The wind on the top of the mountain is cool in late autumn, and lovers stand side by side, watching the sunset foolishly. JIXIAN thought of the mountaintop from the night before yesterday and couldn't help laughing. Xiang Cheng actually listened to music and sang along. The effect of the sound in the bathroom was very good. I hope the person I love is healthy, and kind in personality. JIXIAN smiled softly and said, Xiang Cheng. Xiang Cheng didn't answer, and the sound of clothes being washed went shuala shuala. Are you singing? This was the first time that JIXIAN had heard Xiang Cheng humming. Xiang Cheng stopped singing immediately. JIXIAN laughed with a ha-ha and sang along himself. Only I can appreciate your romance. I hope the person I love is healthy. JIXIAN hummed, pulled on his pants, and went in to hug Xiang Cheng's waist from behind. Xiang Cheng looked at JIXIAN in the mirror, and JIXIAN grabbed his cell phone, wanting to take a picture. Taking nudes of me? Xiang Cheng glanced at JIXIAN. Is that okay? JIXIAN asked. Xiang Cheng didn't say anything, and JIXIAN moved his cell phone up a little, only capturing the beautiful mermaid lines under Xiang Cheng's waist. Xiang Cheng stepped back a little, pulled off JIXIAN's pants and hugged JIXIAN in front of him. They stood in front of the full-length mirror and JIXIAN drew a little closer, turning his face sideways. Look at the camera. Xiang Cheng said. JIXIAN's waist just so happened to block Xiang Cheng's crotch, and the scene in the dressing mirror was so hot and beautiful, it almost gave JIXIAN a nosebleed. Xiang Cheng pressed the button to take the picture. End chapter. Post-training notice. National First Class Registered Exorcist. Chapter 59. Bonfire. After washing the clothes and hanging them up, JIXIAN thought he had to hide that photo as it was too devastating. The two hugged each other in bed. Xiang Cheng turned to his side and let JIXIAN put his thigh on his waist, giving him one of his arms to pillow his head on. With his arms wrapped around JIXIAN, he scrolled through his cell phone with his thumb, looking at the photos of the two of them. JIXIAN lay on Xiang Cheng's chest and breathed in the smell of his skin. The masculine smell of his body was mixed with the scent of the shower gel, which made him feel very comfortable. They just looked at each other. JIXIAN reached out and touched Xiang Cheng's chest. Xiang Cheng narrowed his eyes, enjoying it very much. They had just done it once, but soon they grew hard again. They hugged each other and rubbed against each other. JIXIAN, Xiang Cheng said while looking at the picture. N. JIXIAN asked. Are you willing to be together with me? Xiang Cheng asked. Of course. JIXIAN rummaged around the cloth bag next to the pillow and took out the ring made from that bent piece of iron to give to Xiang Cheng. This is the actual magical artifact I made. JIXIAN said expressionlessly, adjusting and pulling at Xiang Cheng's slender fingers. Xiang Cheng's hands were very good looking, with beautiful palms and clear knuckles. Xiang Cheng held JIXIAN's hand, refusing to let him put on the ring. I have a Yao in my body. Xiang Cheng said. I know. JIXIAN said, I've liked you from the first time I saw you. Xiang Cheng started laughing. I'm a man, Xiang Cheng said, you won't feel uncomfortable about that. Of course I won't, JIXIAN said, I'm gay. Xiang Cheng, what's that? I'm homosexual. JIXIAN didn't know whether to laugh or cry and said, did you not know this entire time? Xiang Cheng thought for a while and said, I always thought you just treated me like a big brother. Maybe, you were a little more clingy than I was to my friends. When you kissed me, I thought that you liked me, but I didn't really understand this. I also thought that if you were a girl, I would definitely take good care of you, but this is also good, The more that Xiang Cheng talked, the more unnatural he sounded, and he kept explaining, I'm not saying that since you're a man, I can't like you, I like you, no. Xiang Cheng said with difficulty, this was obviously already way beyond his speaking capabilities. Finally, he simply said, no matter whether you are a man or a woman, a yao or a human, I like you. JIXIAN laughed and said, thinking about it, homosexuality seems quite normal compared with yaoguai. Xiang Cheng said, I used to know a yao, sometimes they transformed into a man and sometimes into a woman. So. Xiang Cheng's eyebrows twitched, he thought for a while, and he said, when you like a person, no, when you like someone, whether they are a yao or a human, that's something that has nothing to do with what he is. I think so, too. I love you. JIXIAN said solemnly, just as your dad loved your mom. It was my mom who loved my dad. Xiang Cheng was even more solemn. Okay. JIXIAN smiled. Xiang Cheng stopped talking and just looked at JIXIAN quietly. JIXIAN said, either way it means that, you know. Xiang Cheng said, then, we'll be together. I'll. Xiang Cheng thought for a moment. The way he expressed his feelings seemed a little clumsy, but JIXIAN looked at him expectantly. I love you, too. Xiang Cheng said, but when he said this, his expression seemed very stiff. JIXIAN laughed with a big ha-ha, and Xiang Cheng blushed, turned a little, remained silent for a moment, then turned his head again, and looked at JIXIAN's eyes. Whatever I do, Xiang Cheng said, will you be together with me? Of course. JIXIAN said. Xiang Cheng said to himself, I love you, too. He loosened his 5 fingers that were clenched into a fist, so JIXIAN put the ring on his hand. In the future, let's go to England and get married, ba. JIXIAN said. England. Xiang Cheng was a little confused and said, why do you want to go to England? Men can't marry men in China. JIXIAN laughed and said. No need. Xiang Cheng waved his hand and said, we'll go to Wu Mountain and once we kowtow in the Daoist temple there, it's done. What? JIXIAN asked. Pay our respects to the heavens and the earth. Xiang Cheng made a gesture of worship and said, I'll take you in marriage after worshipping, or you can take me in marriage, that's fine too. As long as we finish worshipping, it counts. What marriage formalities, those are all the customs of the mortals. We have the heavens and the earth binding us together, so we won't need those. JIXIAN said, can we go right away? Right now? Xiang Cheng thought for a while and said, it's a little far away. Wu Mountain is in one spot, and the Daoist temple of the Buddha Vairocana is in another spot. Right now, let me think. JIXIAN thought to himself, so it's like this. Is it because Akalanatha was sent down to the earth by the Buddha Vairocana? No, I just said that offhandedly, he hurriedly replied. Xiang Cheng added, the Daoist temple, some people say it's in India, while others say it's in Kailash, Gangrenpaka. After returning to Guangzhou, let's make a plan. If you're not busy next year, let's go together. Excellent. JIXIAN was immediately so happy that his heart sang. He curled up in Xiang Cheng's arms and sniffed around his neck and shoulders. Xiang Cheng smiled, his eyes bright, and looked at the photos taken by JIXIAN. These were bits and pieces of their life together. Xiang Cheng put down his cell phone and looked at JIXIAN. He leaned over and pressed him under him. Like an indifferent wolf, he couldn't help sniffing and smelling him. JIXIAN rubbed his head, and the bridge of his nose rubbed with him intimately. Both their breathing grew urgent. No matter what I am or what I become. Xiang Cheng whispered, JIXIAN, will you always be with me? N. JIXIAN whispered, that's right, duck. The corners of Xiang Cheng's mouth curved up slightly, and he looked into JIXIAN's eyes. JIXIAN felt this time that he pressed himself against him domineeringly, without any lubrication at all, and immediately, JIXIAN's eyes went wide. Relax. Xiang Cheng said in his ear. They felt a choppy friction between each other, a kind of unbridled and intimate tightness that didn't feel like a good fit, where every inch of entry brought the truest and most fulfilling feeling. It made JIXIAN tremble all over, and they both panted, the pain seeming so insignificant. Xiang Cheng kissed JIXIAN deeply, made him hold onto his waist, and drove himself all the way into the hilt. Asterisk. Outside a room on the 4th floor, Qi Wei knocked on a door. Fang Yulan had just washed her hair, and her hair was wet and smelled of shampoo. She came and opened the door of the hotel room. Qi Wei, teacher did. In the room, Dishuman said, is that Xiao Qi? Come in, ba. Fang Yulan helped them close the door, and guiding herself with a hand on the wall, went downstairs. When she got to the 3rd floor, she almost bumped into Kita sitting there. You scared me. Fang Yulan said. I wanted to have a cigarette. Kita said, who are you looking for? Where's Wan Yuanji? Fang Yulan asked. Kita reached out to let Fang Yulan take his arm and led her outside Zhou Wan Yuan's room. Asterisk. Room 405. The afternoon sun shone through the floor-to-ceiling windows, and Dishuman wrapped her hair in a bath towel, sat in front of the window, drank tea, and lit a cigarette. Qi Wei stood at the side, flipped through his iPad a few times, and handed it to Dishuman. These are some of the photos I took these past few days. Qi Wei said, and some information that I sorted out. Dishuman asked, why didn't the eyes follow your guys' group? They were bound by Jinghao, Qi Wei replied. I think the reason Jinghao left and then returned was to find Xiang Cheng. During the training period, Xiang Cheng kept having nightmares, Qi Wei continued. Based on my speculations, this should have been Mara's influence. After Jinghao escaped his confinement, he still wanted to fish in troubled waters. After all, no one should have thought that he would actually dare return after escaping. Dishuman opened up an encrypted file on the iPad. Inside were a few pictures, most of which were of Xiang Cheng sitting alone in a corner. Dishuman didn't say anything and drank some tea, her fingers reaching towards the tabletop. Qi Wei grabbed a packet of sugar substitute, tore it open, and poured it into her cup. When we were resting by the lake, Xiang Cheng left for about an hour. Qi Wei stirred the tea with a spoon after pouring in the sugar substitute. A ripple appeared in the tea, and 2 people were reflected in it. One was Xiang Cheng, and the other was Luan. He was persuading Xiang Cheng to join the Blood Devils camp, Qi Wei explained, his mother once belonged to that side. No, Dishuman said, his mother wasn't one of the Blood Devils people. This is very complicated, and can't be explained in a short amount of time. Qi Wei said, my father said she was. The Blood Devil side sent his mother over. I don't think so, Dishuman said. Why? Qi Wei asked, puzzled. Women understand women better, Dishuman, flicked her cigarette and said, I can't explain it in details, but to sum it up, I feel like she wouldn't have. Then Qi Wei thought for a bit and said, he didn't kill Jinghao and let him leave. It was just that Jinghao didn't know what was good for him and appeared again to capture JIXIAN. Probably the entire process was like that. I understand, Dishuman nodded. Should we report to Teacher Zhou? For now, don't. Dishuman waved her hand and said, the Exorcist committee is a mess right now, haven't you noticed it? Zhou Mokuo and Lin Yura are scheming against each other, both are hiding things and setting traps. We can't afford to wade into these muddy waters. When things are done, just go back to Guangzhou Ba. N. What? Qi Wei thought for a bit and said, JIXIAN is my Mai's good friend. Dishuman drew in a breath and said, when you go back, go ask Director Li Ba. Good people can turn bad, and bad people can also become good. It's not like I can make a decision about this. Besides, if Zhou Mokuo really wants to deal with Xiang Cheng, the likes of us won't be able to stop him. Qi Wei asked, what if we wipe JIXIAN's memory again and separate the two of them? Are you treating people like USB drives? Du Shuman didn't know whether to laugh or cry as she said, wiping someone's memories as soon as you think of doing so. JIXIAN has already been wiped so many times by you guys, have some sympathy, will you? Qi Wei said, if Xiang Cheng is really taken in by the Blood Devil's side. Dishuman replied, whoever took part in the siege of Ba Mountains back then will have to be the ones to clean it up. Qi Wei. Dishuman looked at Qi Wei. Oh, Dishuman laughed. I remember now, your Qi family also took part in that. Qi Wei shrugged and said, I'm not actually afraid of him coming back for revenge, but I don't want JIXIAN to get involved. He's innocent. Xiang Cheng is also innocent. Dishuman said, what can we do? How does that saying go? People's hearts are more terrible than demons. Let's hope he doesn't go downhill. Ba. A devil is like a seed. No, it should be said that any idea is a seed. It is planted in people's hearts, and it slowly takes root, sprouts, and grows branches and leaves. Qi Wei didn't speak and Dishuman continued, Zhou Mokuo is more anxious than your Qi family. If Xiang Cheng is corrupted by a devil, he will be the first one he kills. Go back Ba, and open up the map of the mountains and rivers for me tomorrow. Lao Niang doesn't have the strength to scheme against these people. Qi Wei nodded, and Dishuman added, if you're really worried about JIXIAN, go and prepare some Lihun flower juice. However, whatever mess that gets created from that is one that you will have to clean up yourself. Okay. Qi Wei said. *****. Room 417, Chen Zhen knocked at the door. Enter. Zhou Mokuo said, the door is unlocked. Zhou Mokuo stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling window, looking at a report in his hand and said nothing. Report content, the seed of Mara, a kind of seed that can grow by itself, split, propagate, and absorb the resentment in a person's heart. There are grades of seeds, and they run from high to low, with each level of a seed of Mara able to contact and control those below it. Who gave you this answer? Zhou Mokuo sighed and put the report on the table. That was the analysis issued by Chen Zhen. The old Buddha. Chen Zhen replied, they say she contacted Elder Zheng first and got the exact answer. The seed of Mara was sown on a large scale 100 years ago, and we can now confirm that the seed placed in Jinghao's body is a level 4 seed, while the seed placed in Xiaobin's body is a level 3 seed. Elder Zheng told me that the seeds of Mara can transmit information within a certain distance and effectively control the actions of lower-level members. Further up, there are levels 4, 5, and 6. Chen Zhen said, at present, we know that level 7 is the highest, which is equivalent to the level of a commanding officer from the Yao sacred land. Yan Fei also has this in his body. Zhou Mokuo asked. Yes. Chen Zhen replied, Yan Fei's Mara seed is also level 4. According to our speculations, Wang Lei's Mara seed is likely to be level 5, so Dinghai and Yan Fei are both subordinates of Wang Lei. What did the old Buddha say? Zhou Mokuo then asked. She didn't say anything. Chen Zhen put a list on the coffee table and said, she asked me to show you this report, and asked you to take action as soon as possible to find Wang Lei. The old Buddha is still very powerful. Well calculated. Zhou Mokuo picked up the list and flipped through it. The contents of the list was the whole process of personnel transfer. Chen Zhen didn't answer. Zhou Mokuo then said, it's infuriating, but thinking about how I am also deceiving her, it's all about the same. Chen Zhen said, my guess is teacher Dishuman is even more angry that she was dealt such a hand. At the start, I found it strange that even Elder Zhen was invited out. His 7 treasures banyan tea is the key to resisting Mara. Zhou Mokuo said, go investigate Ba, find out Wang Lei's whereabouts. We must get rid of him as soon as possible. I just can't figure out why Dinghai would come back again, and how old Buddha could have predicted this. Unless she asked Tongwu, but with my understanding of Tongwu, even her precognitive abilities can't extend that far. I think there is only one possibility, Chen Zhen said. Zhou Mokuo looked out of the window. Chen Zhen, the old Buddha also has her own inside agent in the other camp. This inside agent should be Yan Fei. Impossible. Zhou Mokuo said without even thinking. It's a possibility. Chen Zhen said, because Wang Lei gave instructions to him through the Mara seed for all the plans, including the JIXIAN case, Yan Fei didn't know that his superior was Wang Lei. Chen Zhen shrugged and said, however, our plans launching earlier messed up the old Buddha's arrangements. Yan Fei had no way to say anything, and he could only escape, because once caught, the sacred land could kill him through the Mara seed. In addition, Wang Lei was also watching, but he was in no hurry to kill him. After we caught Yan Fei, the old Buddha was caught off guard. In order to dig out Wang Lei as soon as possible, she had to change her arrangements again and approve Chao Bin's interrogation of Yan Fei, so as to release Dinghai. Although Yan Fei is crazy, his Mara seed is still there. Through Yan Fei's chaotic thoughts, she was able to get some messages over to Wang Lei, and she would also be able to observe the plans of Dinghai, who is also level 4. Look at this, Teacher Zhou. Chen Zhen took out his cell phone that was playing a surveillance video taken with a cell phone. Lin Yuro was silently accompanying Yan Fei, holding his hand and sometimes saying a few words to him. We all thought that the old Buddha just couldn't let go of her own great-grandson. Chen Zhen said, I also advised her to restrain her grief and go with the changes. Now it seems that the other purpose of her staying in the prison for a long time and keeping Yan Fei company may have been to find out the layout and plans of the sacred land through Yan Fei. Zhou Mokuo was silent for nearly a minute and finally said, you are very smart, Chen Zhen. It seems that she really hates me this time. Chen Zhen said, maybe she will be even more angry and helpless towards Xiang Cheng and Zhi Ziaduo. At the end of the JIXIAN case, I even felt that she had a bit of an attitude towards Ziaduo and Xiang Cheng. However, she is a rational person, and her feelings will not override her morality. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. The 5th floor, room 522. Lin Yuro walked around the room with her hands behind her back. Look at you. Lin Yuro started lecturing him before she even took a breath. Gagantorura Kita, can you have some sense of family honor? Kita hung his head and obediently submitted to being disciplined. Lin Yuro heaved a sigh and said, during this entire exam, only you didn't do anything. You ran the whole course with Chen Zhen's little brother on your back and didn't fall behind even 1 meter. Did you think you were taking a triathlon exam? Kita said sadly, old Buddha, I didn't have a chance to show off at all. At least I killed a yaworm. Zhou Wanyuan also didn't do anything. Lin Yura sat in the chair, rubbed her fingers between her brow, and said, don't talk nonsense. When are you and Wanyuan planning to get married? Has there been any progress? Even Elder Zheng is worried about you too, can you put in some more effort there? Kita. Speak up. Lin Yuro was about to expire from anger at Kita. We still need some more time. Kita, a burly 1.9 meters tall man, kept his head down and didn't dare to look at Lin Yura. Lin Yura didn't speak and leaned back in the chair. Kita suddenly remembered something. He put a black bottle wrapped in cloth on the coffee table in front of Lin Yura and said, Elder Zheng's disciple asked me to give this to you. Lin Yura asked, when did they come? Just now. Kita said, at 4 o'clock. Lin Yura let out an N, and Kita looked at the bottle. Are you very curious about what this is? Lin Yura's eyebrows moved, and she looked up at Kita. No. No. Kita said. If you look at it, you'll regret it. Lin Yura said, you'd better not look. Kita quickly waved his hand. I'm never curious about things I shouldn't look at. Go back, Ba. Lin Yura said, you've worked hard, have a good rest. When Kita left, Lin Yura opened the bottle. There was a whirling black gas in it. Her eyes went slightly red, and her nose stung. She grabbed a tissue, covered her face, and tears kept flowing out. Chen Zhen walked quickly through the corridor, where Kita was splitting a piece of chocolate with Fang Yulan. What's the matter? Kita asked, seeing that Chen Zhen's expression wasn't quite right. Yan Fei is dead. Chen Zhen replied concisely. Kita. Chen Zhen knocked on Lin Yura's door and said outside, Old Buddha. There was no sound inside. Chen Zhen pressed down on the doorknob, pushed the door in, and saw Lin Yura sitting in front of the sunset, her eyes red. Knowing that she must have already heard the news first, he closed the door and came out. Zhou Wanyuan knocked on the door outside. JIXIAN woke up, and Xiang Chen went out to open the door. Director Chen said that there will be a bonfire party in the evening and we can also do some barbecue. Zhou Wanyuan asked, put on your clothes quickly, strong man. Xiang Chen waved his hand and said, Xiaoduo is sleeping, we won't go. Xiaoduo bounced out of bed and said, I'm going. End chapter.